Before sunrise, fishermen are already pushing wooden boats into the dark water, while in the mountains, farmers begin walking toward coffee fields hidden between steep green slopes. Children in school uniforms follow dusty roads toward small village classrooms, and in Delhi, motorcycles begin filling the streets as another working day starts. For many families here, life still depends on the sea, the land, and the strength of the community around them. Some live in neighborhoods shaped by rapid change, while others remain in villages where traditions have survived for generations. This is Timor-Leste, one of Southeast Asia's youngest countries, but a place where everyday life is shaped by something much older: family, land, faith, and the determination to build a future in a nation still finding its place in the modern world. The Timorese morning begins not with an alarm clock, but with the gradual return of light. In a small village outside the town of Mobis, the scent of wood smoke curls from the kitchens of traditional homes. A mother is already awake, tending a small fire to cook the morning's rice. The sounds are of the village itself: the low murmur of voices, the laughter of children getting ready for school, the distant call of a pig or a goat. Life here is woven from the threads of family and community. A home does not end at its walls. It extends to the neighbors, the cousins, the entire village. Children are not raised by two parents alone, but by a web of aunts, uncles, grandparents, and elders. If a family is struggling, others will share what little they have. This deep sense of collective identity, of shared responsibility, is the bedrock upon which Timorese society is built. It is a shield forged through centuries of shared history and hardship. What is immediately striking is the difference in perspective between generations. An elder sitting on the porch of their home has lived through multiple lifetimes. They remember a childhood under Portuguese colonial rule, a brutal 24-year Indonesian occupation, and a devastating struggle for independence. Their hands, weathered and strong, have built homes, farmed the land, and fought for the very existence of their nation. Their memories are a living archive of a history that is still recent, still raw. For their grandchildren, the world is entirely different. A 20-year-old in the capital city, Dili, has known only an independent Timor-Leste. Their world is one of smartphones, social media, and the promise of a future their grandparents could only dream of. They navigate the city's growing traffic on a scooter, study at a university, and speak a mixture of the official languages, Tetum and Portuguese, along with English learned from the internet. Yet, despite these differences, the core of life remains the same. The young person in Dili will still make the long journey back to their family's village for holidays and ceremonies. They will still show deep respect to their elders, listening to their stories and seeking their guidance. In Timor-Leste, the past is not a distant country. It is a constant presence, living alongside the ambitions of a new generation, shaping the identity of a nation that is still finding its way in the world. To understand the people of Timor-Leste, you must first understand their land. This is a country defined by its verticality. A spine of rugged, forest-clad mountains runs the length of the island, with peaks like Mount Ramelau soaring to nearly 3,000 meters. This is not just a geographical feature. It is the single greatest force shaping the lives of the people. The mountains dictate where people can live, what they can grow, and how they can travel. They create a natural isolation, separating communities in deep valleys that are only a few kilometers apart as the crow flies, but can take hours to travel between unwinding, often unpaved roads. During the rainy season, from November to May, a sudden downpour can turn a dry riverbed into a raging torrent, cutting off a village for days. A landslide can block the only road to a remote community, making it impossible to get to a market or a clinic. This geography has forged a spirit of incredible self-reliance. In a remote mountain village, your neighbor is your first responder, your support system, and your closest link to the outside world. Survival has always depended on the strength of the community, on the knowledge that you must rely on each other when help is far away. The landscape also creates a stark contrast between the interior and the coast. While the mountains are cool and often shrouded in mist, the coastal plains are hot and dry, with a landscape of savanna and eucalyptus trees that feels more Australian than Southeast Asian. Here, life is oriented toward the sea. Fishing, salt farming, and trade have long been the mainstays of the coastal communities. This challenging terrain is the reason why a journey of just 100 kilometers can feel like crossing an entire country. It explains why a farmer in the mountains might live a life almost entirely disconnected from the government official in Dili, and why the development and opportunities concentrated in the capital have been so slow to reach the remote corners of the country. Life is the way it is here because the mountains have made it so. As the sun clears the mountain peaks, the day's rhythms take hold. For children in rural areas, the school day begins with a journey. It is not a ride on a yellow bus, but a walk, sometimes for more than an hour, along steep dirt paths. They walk in groups, their bright uniforms a splash of color against the green landscape, their chatter echoing in the quiet morning air. Their journey is a daily testament to the hope that education represents, a path to a different kind of future. In the coastal town of Liquissar, the fishing boats are returning. Their arrival is a community event. Families gather on the beach to help pull the boats ashore and sort the catch. The air fills with the smell of the sea and the sound of bargaining as women buy fish to take to the local market. Nothing is wasted. The smallest fish will be salted and dried in the sun to be eaten in the months to come. In Dili, the capital city, the day moves to a different beat. The streets are a chaotic but functional ballet of motorcycles, battered yellow taxis, and microlets, small, brightly decorated buses that are the backbone of public transport. People are heading to work in government offices, in the shops and restaurants that line the waterfront, or on the countless construction sites where the new face of the city is slowly taking shape. By midday, the tropical heat is intense. The pace of life slows, people seek shade, and the streets become quieter. This is a time for rest, for a shared meal, for a pause before the work of the afternoon begins. As the sun begins to dip toward the horizon, casting a golden light across the landscape, the flow of life reverses. Farmers walk back from their fields, their tools resting on their shoulders. Children, their school day over, play games in the village square. In Dili, the evening traffic builds as people make their way home. Life draws inward. Families gather. The evening meal is simple: usually rice with vegetables, perhaps some fish, or a small piece of meat. It is a meal grown from the family's own land or bought with the day's earnings, and it is shared together. When darkness falls, it falls completely in the villages. With limited electricity, the night is quiet, broken only by the sound of insects and the murmur of conversation. This is a time for storytelling, for passing down the history of the family and the community. It is in these quiet moments, under a sky brilliant with stars, that the culture is kept alive, a precious inheritance passed from one generation to the next. You cannot understand life in Timor-Leste without understanding the central role of family and the complex tapestry of traditions that govern it. The family is not a small nuclear unit. It is a sprawling, interconnected network of relatives that forms the primary social safety net. This is expressed in the concept of the Uma Lulik, or sacred house, the ancestral home that is the spiritual center of a clan. These traditions are a blend of ancient animist beliefs and a deep-seated Catholic faith, a legacy of 400 years of Portuguese rule. On a Sunday morning, the churches in towns and villages are full, the sound of hymns sung in Tetum echoing through the community. But alongside the Christian faith, older beliefs remain powerful. Ceremonies to honor ancestors, to bless a new home, or to ensure a good harvest are still an essential part of life, particularly in rural areas. This blend of influences is seen everywhere. It is in the language Tetum, which is filled with Portuguese loanwords. It is in the music, which combines the melancholic melodies of Portuguese fado with local rhythms and instruments. One of the most visible expressions of Timor-Leste culture is the ties, a traditional hand-woven textile. Each region has its own unique patterns and colors, and the ties is far more than just a piece of cloth. It is worn at weddings, funerals, and official ceremonies. It is given as a gift to show respect and to seal relationships. The patterns woven into the fabric tell stories of the weaver's ancestors, of the natural world, and of the history of their community. To see a woman sitting at a simple backstrap loom, patiently weaving threads into an intricate design, is to see a culture being kept alive, one thread at a time. These are not traditions performed for tourists. They are the living, breathing fabric of society. They are seen in the way a community comes together to build a house for a newly married couple, in the elaborate ceremonies that accompany a funeral, and in the deep respect shown to elders, who are seen as the keepers of wisdom and the link to the ancestors. In Timor-Leste, culture is not something you observe, it is the way you live. The story of Timor-Leste is a tale of two profoundly different worlds: the bustling, modernizing capital of Dili, and the quiet, traditional life of the rural villages where the majority of the population still lives. Dili is a city of energy and aspiration. It is the center of government, commerce, and education. Here, you will find supermarkets stocked with imported goods, modern cafes overlooking the sea, and a growing number of cars and air-conditioned office buildings. For young people from across the country, Dili represents opportunity, a chance for a university education, a salaried job, a connection to the wider world. The streets are a testament to this, filled with young professionals, students, and entrepreneurs striving to build a future for themselves and their country. But this urban life comes with its own pressures. The cost of living is high, formal jobs are scarce, and many people live in crowded neighborhoods with limited infrastructure. The city can feel anonymous, a sharp contrast to the tight-knit communities left behind. Leave Dili, and the landscape of life changes dramatically. Just an hour's drive into the mountains, the paved roads give way to dirt tracks. The concrete buildings are replaced by traditional homes made of wood, bamboo, and thatch. The economy shifts from cash to subsistence. Here, life is not governed by the clock, but by the seasons. Wealth is not measured in money, but in the health of the family's livestock, the size of the corn harvest, and the strength of community bonds. The challenges of rural life are immense. Access to healthcare, quality education, and electricity is limited. A trip to the nearest market can be a long and arduous journey. Yet for many, this life also offers a sense of peace, of connection to the land, and of belonging that the city cannot replicate. Many families live with a foot in both worlds. A father might work on a construction site in Dili, sending money home to his family in the village. A young woman might move to the city to study, but her heart and her identity remain rooted in the mountain community where she was born. This constant negotiation between the pull of tradition and the push for modernity is one of the central stories of contemporary Timor-Leste. For most Timorese families, the earth is the primary employer. Subsistence agriculture is the foundation of the rural economy. Families cultivate small plots of land, growing what they need to survive: maize, rice, cassava, sweet potatoes, and vegetables. The work is physically demanding, done almost entirely by hand with simple tools. A good harvest means food on the table. A bad harvest, caused by too little or too much rain, can mean a hungry season. Any small surplus is taken to the local market to be sold for cash. This cash is precious. It is used to pay for school fees for the children, for medicine, for salt and cooking oil, and for mobile phone credit. In the highlands, the most important cash crop is coffee. Timor-Leste produces some of the world's finest organic Arabica coffee, grown in the shade of large trees. For farming families in districts like Emera and Ainaro, the coffee harvest is the most important economic event of the year. The income from selling their coffee beans to a cooperative must be carefully managed to last the entire year. In the cities, the economic landscape is different, but no less challenging. Formal employment is limited, with the government being the largest employer. Many people find work in the informal sector, driving a microlet, selling goods at a roadside stall, or working as a day laborer on a construction site. These jobs are often insecure, with low and unpredictable wages. The cost of living, especially in Dili, is surprisingly high. Because Timor-Leste has very little industry, almost all manufactured goods, from electronics to clothing to processed foods, must be imported, making them expensive. A bag of rice, the absolute staple of the diet, can consume a significant portion of a family's weekly budget. Rent for a simple room in the capital can be a major struggle for a low-wage worker. The nation's economy is heavily dependent on revenues from its offshore oil and gas fields. This money funds the government and major infrastructure projects, but its impact on the daily lives of ordinary families is often indirect. For most people, economic life remains a daily struggle, a constant balancing act. Managed with incredible resourcefulness, hard work, and the crucial support of the extended family network. To truly understand the connection between a remote Timorese village and the global economy, you must travel into the coffee-growing highlands. Here, in the cool mountain air, generations of families have cultivated coffee trees under the canopy of the native forest. The day for a coffee farmer begins early. They walk, sometimes for an hour or more, to their family's coffee garden, a plot of land that may have been passed down for generations. During the harvest season, the work is intensive. The entire family is involved, carefully picking only the ripe, red coffee cherries by hand. The process is slow and meticulous. The cherries are brought back to the village, where they are pulped, fermented, and then washed in clean mountain water. Finally, the beans are spread out on tarps to dry in the sun. The farmers turn the beans by hand throughout the day to ensure they dry evenly. For these families, coffee is more than just a crop. It is their main, and sometimes only, source of cash income for the entire year. The money from the coffee harvest will determine whether they can afford to send their children to high school, whether they can make improvements to their home, or whether they can cover the cost of a medical emergency. The journey of these coffee beans is a remarkable one. From a small family farm in the mountains of Timor-Leste, they are transported down treacherous roads to a processing facility, and from there, they are shipped to roasters and cafes in cities like Melbourne, London, and New York. The person drinking a latte in a bustling city cafe is unlikely to imagine the farmer whose hard work and dedication produced the coffee in their cup. For the farmer, this global connection is both a lifeline and a source of vulnerability. The price they receive for their coffee is determined by a global market thousands of kilometers away, a market they have no control over. A dip in world coffee prices can have a devastating impact on a family's income. Yet, despite the challenges, they continue to cultivate their coffee with pride, their lives a testament to the hard work that connects the soil of Timor-Leste to the rest of the world. To walk through a village in Timor-Leste is to walk through living history. The quiet resilience of the people today can only be understood through the lens of their tumultuous past. An older woman, her face a map of a long and difficult life, remembers a time before the wars. She remembers the stories of her grandparents, who lived under a distant and often neglectful Portuguese colonial administration. Her most vivid memories, however, are of the 24 years of Indonesian occupation that began in 1975. It was a period of brutal conflict and immense suffering, in which it is estimated that a quarter of the population perished. She remembers hiding in the mountains, the constant fear, the loss of family members. Her generation fought and sacrificed for a single, powerful idea: independence. When the Timorese people voted overwhelmingly for independence in a UN-sponsored referendum in 1999, the backlash was swift and violent. pro-Indonesian militias destroyed most of the country's infrastructure, forcing hundreds of thousands of people from their homes. The nation that was finally born in 2002 was one of the poorest in the world. A country in ruins that had to be rebuilt from scratch. This history is not an abstract chapter in a textbook. It is a collection of personal stories of trauma and survival that is carried by everyone over the age of 40. Contrast this with a young Timorese student. They were born after the conflict. They have grown up in a free Timor-Leste. Their identity is not defined by the struggle against an occupier, but by the challenge of building a new nation. They are proud of their country's hard-won independence, but they are also focused on the future, on finding a job, on building a career, on making their country a better place. This generational divide is one of the most profound dynamics in Timorese society. It shapes conversations around the dinner table, debates about the nation's future, and the very definition of what it means to be Timorese in the 21st century. With all the challenges, the limited jobs, the difficult roads, the struggle to make a living, the question remains, why do people stay? Why do they choose to build their lives in these mountains and on these shores? The answer is not about economics. It is about something deeper. Something that cannot be measured in dollars and cents. It is the unbreakable bond of family. It is the comfort of living in a community where you know every face and they know yours. It is the profound sense of belonging that comes from the land itself. To live in Timor-Leste is to be part of a story that is much larger than your own life. It is to feel the presence of your ancestors in the sacred houses and the ancient trees. It is to know that the land you farm was farmed by your great-grandparents. It is the pride of living in a nation that fought so hard and sacrificed so much to be free. People stay for the peace that comes from the immense silence of the mountains, for the freedom of the open sea. They stay because this is more than just a place to live. It is the source of their identity, their language, their culture, and their strength. In a world that is increasingly disconnected, a world of noise and speed, Timor-Leste remains a place of profound human connection. It is a reminder that a rich life can be built from the most essential things, from the land, from the sea, and from each other. And it is here, on this rugged half-island, that the Timorese people continue to live, their daily lives a quiet, dignified testament to the enduring power of family, community, and home.